A business is a messy thing. It's people, it's technology, it's capital, but most importantly, it's the people. And the company usually is only as good as the vision, the leadership, the execution, the collaboration of the people.
Well, hello, friends, and welcome to a new episode of Merging Minds, the podcast brought to you by BureauWorks, the AI-powered TMS. Once again, I am super excited to be bringing you a new guest, somebody that is doing something cool, something that is bringing value to the localization industry. And today, I am here with my mate, Jordan Evans. Hey, Jordan, how you doing, buddy? All
Javi,
good?
good to see you. And it was nice to start our session in puro español. So we just flip the switch into English, and it's just a fun transition. That's the beauty of this industry, right?
It is, man. It is, man. So for those who don't know you, who is Jordan Evans? Who are you? Where are you based? What are you doing for a living?
Sure.
You can do your introduction yourself, man. Tell us.
Sure. So CEO of Language Network, professionally, managing director of HireGlobo. So translation, interpretation, localization, and then global staffing and recruiting, both related but separate businesses. I am in California here in Santa Barbara, beautiful Santa Barbara. And in fact, most of our team is global, so it's just really me that's here. We've got people distributed all around the world. Absolutely love what we do in this industry, and it's an interesting time to be in this space. My background is actually in software startups. Being here on the West Coast in the U.S., I've started a few. I've been a part of a few others. More misses than successes, and so I like to think it was preparing me for this chapter with Language Network and HireGlobo.
Yeah. So serial entrepreneur. You're a serial. Have you ever had a job, man?
I don't call myself that. Yes, I have had a job. I think it's important to be employed, to get fired, to be employed again, to figure it out. If you take a job, it should be to earn a salary, sure. But more importantly, you should be learning new skills for whatever is next in your life and your career. If you're not getting the skill sets, you're not learning from somebody, then forget it. So when I did take a job, it was specifically to gain a skill set. And I've been in sales and marketing primarily on the commercial side of growing a business. But yeah, I've had a job.
Yeah, you did, because I know I have a couple of friends who are on the entrepreneurial side in our industry, giving jobs to people, helping people grow, and they never had a job. I can think of one right now. It's like, I never had a job. I just started doing some stuff. I had no fucking idea what I was doing, and it ended up in a $50 million business. And yeah. And I think it's very important what you mentioned right now, like the getting the job, learning, and getting fired, man. Like what a cruel experience, but it makes you wake up and realize that you can do more things. Right? I've been fired, of course. So
yeah. And it's important to acknowledge those misses too, whether they were performance or company or whatever. It's all part of the journey. If I could speak to that, it's the kick in my butt to get into the language industry was I was a VP of sales and marketing for an early stage software company. I thought we were doing well, but the CEO had a difference of opinion on how we were doing and decided to wind down my contract. I had just come off of a huge success. I was working for a SaaS company. We were doing marketing and hospitality, and we were acquired by Booking.com.
Okay.
Based out of Amsterdam. Fantastic company, best company I've ever been a part of, other than Language Network and HireGlobo. But it's very Dutch, and they did a very good job of being a global hospitality company. And I was learning about their culture, how they operated. And so a lot of things I learned from that chapter I've implemented at Language Network, which we can talk about in a little bit. So anyways, fast forward to the moment of being let go. Yeah, it was a surprise. At that time, my mom, who was the founder of Language Network, a Spanish interpreter in California, in LA, she had been doing this for 30 years. And it's quite a common story. The linguist that turns it into a company and grows to a certain size. It's a nice lifestyle. However, she was tired and didn't see a path to retire. And I saw an opportunity to help my mom with my skill set. And so I started consulting with her now that I had been released. And as I was doing that, I realized I really am enjoying this industry. I think I can help grow the company, and I can help her retire. And that's how I got into the industry.
Jordan, it's so funny you mentioned that, because this is exactly the same story we have at BureauWorks.
Yes.
It's the mother of Gabriel who founded the company just
Yes.
as a translator in an office, Bureau de Tradução in Brazil, and now we're a software company. So,
Yes.
and it's also interesting that you mentioned that you had an experience in Booking.com. And a few months ago, my good friend Chris Dell, who was one of the directors of content in Booking.com, he came here and we went through his journey. He had a super interesting stories to share. Like if you see in the podcast and you're following it, you can find the episode scrolling down to last summer, because I think it's when we last spoke with him, and he was sharing super good. He was one of the first people that joined Booking.com when they were like 20, 50 people, something like that.
Yes.
He started doing jobs as a translator like that. He went into other areas, and he built the whole infrastructure for content and for globalization, right? And it's so we know that we've heard that story. It's a good company. Of course, friends have worked there, so yeah.
I'll check out the episode. And what's impressive is they did it in-house, that they built that infrastructure, Booking.com for localization, and then having global distributed teams. So it's an interesting case study to see.
Yeah, them going from Booking.nl to Booking.com and all those changes. And that wasn't like so long ago. It was like 15, 16 years ago. Huh?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I was thinking, like, it's cool that you mentioned that Language Network it's a family business after all, right? And I guess like you learn a lot from your parents, of course. That's the normal thing to do, right? And the values they transmit to you, and they influence where you are right now and your leadership, right? And it makes me think of a question that I have for you: is which of those values from your upbringing still guide your decisions today? Can you name a few?
It's interesting. A business is a messy thing. It's people, it's technology, it's capital, but most importantly, it's the people. And the company usually is only as good as the vision, the leadership, the execution, the collaboration of the people. But trust was a big thing. I bought the company from my mom, from my parents, and actually my younger sister is still involved, so we are still a family company. But I also wanted to change it. That we needed to evolve. And so there's this tension of legacy and trust and learning from the people before you, but also the space to execute and experiment and do something new, which was really important to me coming from a startup world, that we grow, we evolve, we test, we learn, we iterate, versus we just are stuck in one path.
Yeah.
And so it's a balance. For me, the values of honoring the humanity of this industry, that I'm so proud that my mom started the company, like Gabriel, that we get to take it to the next level, its next life. And that's important to honor that, but also to, okay, I'll answer your question though. Our values are heart, our action, and it's very human, right? A machine doesn't have a heart. I think it's kind of funny to talk about this in the age of AIs and all the headlines, but humility, empathy, so that understanding, the adaptability, that's very important, especially in reinvention. Respect, and respect is given freely. We don't wait for somebody to earn it, and then take action. So having that urgency to solve problems, to take ownership. Those are some values that I think came from my family, and now we have those as our official values as a company. And we hire people based on those values, we fire people based on those values, and we
the firing part is always there as well, right? Yeah.
It's two-sided.
Hey, and it's been almost 10 years since you took over the company. Now it makes me think like of different moments and stages you've probably been through, right? But can you pick one bold move that changed the company's trajectory? Can you pick one? What would it be?
Yeah. I mean, the first one was me taking it over, was the bold move to actually be stupid enough to believe that I could do it. And I think that makes the world of difference, is to be willing to bet on yourself. So I bought the company from my parents. It wasn't given to me. It wasn't, inherited. I figured out how to buy it, what price to pay. And that opened my eyes, Javi, to this power of acquisition. That was never on our mind before. We were just going to grow organically. But after seeing how rewarding it was to help my parents exit, and then also me take on a great company and enhance it. So it was buying it, number one. Number two was doing it again, and then again and again and again. So we've done 6 acquisitions, but the big next step was doing that second acquisition and realizing that we can be a stronger network of language companies, and we will continue to acquire good fit companies. Okay. And so those were probably the biggest moves. Third was global team and committing to hiring the best person for the role, no matter where they are in the world, and making our systems and our internal processes fit that. And that makes the world of difference in a service company. You're only as good as the people that is doing the service, as collaborative as they are, as adaptable as they are. And so our team is 55 globally, and maybe 50% US, 50% Europe, Latin America, Asia. And that was a big change for us, a big improvement to have global talent.
Yeah. So acquisition number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you mentioned very clearly the importance of those values that you learned from your family, that you infused in the company, right? But in those processes of change, growth, acquiring, how do you keep that culture and those values strong enough during those periods?
Good question. It's the podcast is Merging Minds, and that's what we're doing with acquisition. Is we're merging minds, merging hearts, merging skills, merging workflows. It's tumultuous. It's hard work. There you need a clear vision of how can we be better together. And it's first you're getting to know the people and the skills of the company we're acquiring. Our model is to buy a company in its entirety and to keep the people, whereas other folks may have a different approach. So it's very important that we understand the company going in. What do they value? Is it understand the relationships, the skills, and it's a slow start. The first 6 months is really communicating, observing, sharing ideas, and then coming up with a more concrete plan. How can we be better with our systems, with our sales process, stuff like that. So it's not a magic formula. It's really relational, actually. And I think that's why a lot of acquisitions fail, is it's so easy to think I have it figured out. This is the right way.
Yeah.
And our values remain, but we're open to new ideas. So the heart values for the people, I think that's pretty consistent. But then on the other things, we adopt. You got to be open to new ways of doing things too.
In these 9 years of leading the company, of creating, of bringing in other companies in, etc., were there difficult moments when you said, "I'm out, I'm quitting"? I'm gonna get a job again?
Oh shit! No. That's all right. You can edit that out if you want. But...
No, it's okay. That sounded awesome. That sounded awesome, actually. So that's awesome, man.
I love what I do. There are days that being the leader, you have to deal with more stress or harder decisions. But my chapter, my professional, being let go, being a part of a startup that made it, being a part of another that didn't, all of it was getting better for this chapter. And so I really love what we're doing. I see the value that we can build as a network. And so the model's working. I have the energy and vision and excitement. So no, I'm not going to hang up.
No, I love it. You're probably the first entrepreneur that comes to the podcast and says, I never thought of quitting. Then that's remarkable, man. That's cool.
Not quitting. I mean, there's some days where it's like, I wish I was on a beach, drinking a margarita right now, for sure.
Oh, I love it. It's super interesting. One of the reasons why we built the podcast, it's to also spread good leadership values. And I wanted to interview you because I've heard from people that work with you of great things in the way you work, in the way you lead. And one of the core things I've always been preaching for, and I know it's super complicated to get to that, is empathy, right? I've always believed in empathy being in the core of every human interaction. Like, I need to put myself in the shoes of that the person I'm dealing with, whether it's an employee, whether it's your wife, your girlfriend, whatever, right? And I've always tried to bring the topic to all the guests that are in the podcast, right? So I want to ask you about empathy and how do you balance empathy and performance as a leader?
This is a deep philosophical question.
It is difficult, man.
This is a great question because we're talking about, picture you're running a train. It's a machine. You want to run it on time. We got destination to go. Talking about the business, right? We need to keep moving. But then you got people on the train, and you got different attitudes, and you got different perspectives of how we should do it and when we should do it. And it's hard to always have this empathy. But I think even more in today's world, owning your communication, if it's imperfect, that goes a long way. I'll give you an example. We've got team members that communicate in different ways. Some are more quiet, some are more boisterous. Others need to sit and reflect. Others will speak their mind very loud and nobody else can talk over them. And how do you find that balance of empathy and understanding to be collaborative? It's a dance. It takes a lot of work. So as a leader, sometimes I might step on somebody, being open to either apologizing or pulling that person aside and say, hey, how can I work with you better? I value your opinion. I realize in that meeting, I probably cut you off too much. I think that goes a long way, that self-awareness, that idea that assume everyone's trying to do the best that they can.
Yeah, and in a moment in the world in which we millennials are in power or are trying to be in power, right?
It's our time.
Yeah, it's our time. It finally arrived. It finally arrived. So there's we put a lot of effort and a lot of stress in inclusion, in empathy, in those values. There's a great book that my friend Minette Norman wrote a couple of years ago, The Boldly Inclusive Leader, which it points out and talks about precise situations in which, if you're a leader of the team, how you can include everybody that's in the meeting room, etc. So we as millennials, I think we put a lot of more effort and stress in that, right?
Yeah, you're probably right. It's interesting to look at it from a generational perspective as well.
Yeah. And if I can ask you, like as a team leader, as a founder, you gotta have some leadership insecurities. Can you name one?
Always. We always have, in Spanish, we call them el cucuy. Do you know el cucuy, the boogeyman?
No.
Okay. Well, I mean, the idea, that somebody in the closet, the monster under your bed.
Okay.
I know that I've got probably my urgency and speed. I look at all the things that are imperfect and they can be frustrating. You're working with people, you're working with a business, and things are inherently messy. So I can get frustrated and not delegate or communicate what the deliverable looks like well. That might be one of them. You should ask my wife this question, really. We all have blind spots. And to be honest with you, I don't know if you've done any DISC profile or any personality tests. I highly recommend.
I did that 3 years ago. I did a test. I had to do one of those tests for a psychological, I think I was doing that. Yeah, I remember.
So we as a company, we have a tool called Cloverleaf, and everyone in the company does 3 or 4 tests, a DISC test, an Enneagram, Myers-Briggs. There's a bunch of these. And it talks about your strengths, weakness, what stresses you out, what motivates you, your communication style. And what I like about it is it will compare. So I can look at anyone in the company and see how we work together and what areas we stress each other out. And so that's something I look at all the time. And it gives me coaching on how to work better with my direct reports. But yeah, you asked me what things like imperfections do I feel like I need to work on? And I think it's being more directive. I like to be very inclusive and Socratic and let people get to the decision on their own. I think that's more empowering. However, sometimes we just need to make a decision, and for speed and agility. And So it's knowing that balance of when to really push and then also when to step back. And I'm working on that. There's a whole bunch of things, but that's the first that came to mind.
Well, it's very interesting, and thanks for sharing it, man. I think it's a journey, no? And one of the things that came to mind when you mentioned this DISC type of psychological assessment that companies do sometimes to evaluate the employees and see how get their skills, etc., and see how they can be better and work better. Like one of the things that I have in mind is like as a human, as an individual, we are in constant evolving. I mean, we're constantly evolving. I think so, right? So what I used to like 10 years ago, I don't like it now, man. And before I used to do these things, now I don't do this. It's like, and I look back like, how the hell was I doing these things? And the same at work, the same in when I work in a team or whatever, right? And I think that could be also a difficult part for you as a leader to handle, right? Like, hey, oh my God, like we've been working with this person this guy's been working with me from day one, and now he's a married guy, or some things in his life has changed that has to impact, right? You take that into account into all of your decisions, right?
Not their marital status, no. That's awesome for them, but no, I get what you mean.
Come to work, get your work done, and go back to your wife.
Yeah, the evolution is so important. And you had asked me too, like, I have to keep evolving. If I don't, I will stop the company. I will be a blocker. And so the day that I get tired from evolving is the day I should have another CEO take over. The company needs to evolve. And so what's so important to me, Javi, is if you come and work with us, like, let's have a shared alignment on the values. Let's have an alignment that we want to work hard and we want to win. And the minute that you feel like you're just a job, or you want to stop, then that's okay, and that person can go find a better fit role or a better fit company. But if you are going to come work here, like, I'm going to be committed to investing in you and growing your skill set. Like, we invest in company learning, individual level. We have different benefits, and that's so important to me. And then as we hyper growth, sometimes the role needs to shift, and we need to reshuffle how people work together. And that's hard to do as humans. Like, oh shit, now you're changing like what I used to do, and I don't want to let it go. So there's always this stretching, and sometimes people are their seat is no longer the right seat. And so we try and work and make it the right seat, or that person says, I'm not excited about it anymore. Fortunately, that hasn't been a problem. Like, we've had really great retention and expansion. I'll give you an example. We've had some of our best team members join us through an acquisition, and they were doing something totally different. And now 3-4 years later, they're leading a global team on a service line, or they're doing global marketing or VP of our operations. So if there's openness, there's possibilities. And we're also not a stagnant business. I think that gets really hard, Javi. If you're just kind of the same size and you're not growing, then people might outgrow the role or outgrow the company faster.
Yes. I know what you mean. Totally. It makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate the attitude you're putting towards those aspects of the work, those aspects of leading, right? But it makes me think as well, hey, if you will go back to that Jordan 25-year-old, what would you tell him? I've asked this question before, and I think it's a very interesting question. If you'd ask me, I think I've said it before as well, Javi, grow a beard. That's what I tell my 2015 Javi.
You have a photo of yourself.
Oh yeah, but I'll show it when they hear. Or I'll probably post on LinkedIn or something.
Oh, I took your advice. I've had this since maybe 12 years old. I don't know. Gosh, 25. Great question. Yeah, I think you got nothing to prove. Just go out there and do what excites you. You don't worry about the fitting in or following a prescriptive path. And I think you'd live this mantra out in your own life path, but it's really just, it's okay to not fit in, and you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Just do your best at whatever you choose you want to do for the moment.
And I think you're doing it, and you've done it So I'm Jordan. I'm so thankful to have had you here today, so we know a little bit more about you, about your leadership style, about what you've built, etc. So it's a pleasure to have had you in Merging Minds today, my friend. I hope to see you in person soon.
Oh, we will. And thanks, Javi, for having me. It's been
Cheers,
really.
my friend, and to all of you watching. Until the next episode of Merging Minds. Bye. Peace.
Salud.
Adios.